Hi, everyone, and welcome to our student takeover of Inside the Classroom Academics with our Pitt Pathfinders. We are so excited that you're all joining us today, and we're going to give you a couple minutes to come into our session. But first off, good morning, good afternoon, maybe good evening, depending upon where you are located in the world. We are so glad that you are joining us today. You're going to get to hear from some of our amazing students who are currently enrolled at the University of Pittsburgh. We have 6 of them here with us today who are in each of our freshman level entry schools, who will be able to answer any of your questions that you have that really talk about what it is like to be a student inside the classroom. What are academics like? What are classes like? What are professors like? And so much more. Just a couple of housekeeping tips. So today, our students are taking over our YouTube channel all day long. There's going to be different sessions from this one to a session on research, one on internships, one on residence halls and food. And then finally, one to close our day that is all about outside the classroom. So student life, student organizations, anything that goes along with what students do outside of going to class. Now, if you have a question, please feel free, just put it right up there in the YouTube chat session and we will go ahead and we will answer as many of those as we can. You are also welcome to send your question to the text message number that was sent to you to register for this session. So you can send it back there and our staff is back answering all of those questions as well. But at this time, I am going to introduce you to each of our students. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. They're going to tell you not only their name, their major, what school they're in, but also maybe just a fun fact about them. So Emily, would you like to start us off?
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily, and I'm a current sophomore in the nursing school. I am from Warrington, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour north of Philadelphia. And my fun fact is that even though I am a huge fan of Heinz Field, I am slightly afraid of ketchup.
Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I'm currently a junior in the Dietrich School studying political science and gender, sexuality, and women's studies. I'm from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. That's about an hour north of Pittsburgh. And fun fact, I'm a second degree black belt.
Hi everyone, I'm Evan. I'm from a small city outside of Boston. I'm currently a freshman majoring in computer science, which is in the School of Computing and Information. And a fun fact about me, I'm involved with the Pitt football team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie. I'm currently a freshman. I'm in the College of Business Administration. I'm a marketing major. I'm from Rochester, New York, basically up near Canada, nowhere near New York City. And a fun fact about me is I am a huge fan of Jeopardy!
Hi everyone, I'm Karen. I'm currently a freshman in the Swanson School of Engineering. I just declared my major as bioengineering. I'm from a small suburb that's north of Chicago. And a fun fact about me, I've been Irish dancing since I was 4.
Hey everyone, my name is Vishan. I am a junior here at Pitt. I'm from Central Jersey originally, and I'm studying biology in the Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences and on the pre-med track. A fun fact about me is that I used to play chess nationally.
Wow, so now you got to meet each one of our students. You got to hear their fun facts, which some of those I am just learning right now as well. And I have to say, even I'm a little scared now, that's a little bit scary for me, but I'm so excited to have each and every one of you join us today. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and your online learning to be with us. We do have a question for our Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences students. So either Eva or Vishan, whoever wants to take this one, if you could talk to us about coming in from the Dietrich School and maybe starting as an undecided major, as you all do within the Dietrich School, and then how do you go about picking your major and what does that mean towards graduation and getting your graduation requirements in and graduating with your bachelor's degree?
I think what's great about the Dietrich School is that you get a wide variety of different programs to look into, but also those introductory classes. So a lot of my friends who did go undecided that first year took like their basic 101 classes just to get a taste for like what possible majors they could be interested in. Then you get your own Dietrich specific advisor who you can kind of brainstorm with what you may be interested in. And they can kind of help you make like a guide plan of like what classes to take if you go whatever major you do end up choosing, and you have like one advisor at least for one major. So for me personally, I started off undecided, went into political science after taking American history. Then from there, just kind of fell in love with my major and added a second one because I want to stay at Pitt as long as I can. So it's great that you have like multiple resources throughout the school.
Perfect. And Vashon, can you talk to us a little bit about your advisor experience within the Dietrich School, and maybe tell us a little bit about what it was like to really start to get a feel for some of the classes that you might be interested, or some of the ones that you also might have to take to graduate?
For sure. So the Dietrich School advisors do a great job of, focusing on breadth and depth at the same time. So you get assigned an advisor when you decide to commit to Pitt. Mine was great. Her name was Teresa, and I had a great experience with her. So I talked to her just before starting my freshman year, and she sort of helped me along the way, I told her I was interested in the sciences, so she helped pick up some introductory science courses. So I took bio and chemistry, and then she also helped me recognize that we had gen ed requirements that we had to fulfill, and she had like, what are your broader interests outside of science? And so I was able to take my English requirement, and I was able to take this interesting music class because I had always been interested in music as sort of a hobby. So that was really cool. And along the way, you'll be able to satisfy those gen eds by meeting with your advisor and just sort of making sure you're on the right track to graduate. Whether that be in 4 years, or if you want to graduate a semester early, or want to stay an extra year, or like Eva. And then once you do declare your major, you can go and meet with the advisor of that major. So that's really nice that you have a smooth transition over to that major. And then you'll get assigned a new advisor, but you can always meet with the regular Dietrich School advisor too. So you kind of have two advisors, which is really nice. One that's known you for your breadth, and then one that knows you within your major.
Thank you so much, Vashon. So our next question has to do with class size. And this is a really good question that really does depend upon what school you're in. So I'm going to let each of you talk a little bit about class size, and especially for our upperclassmen, talking about the transition between what it was like when you were a freshman to what it was like now. So Emily, I'm going to start with you because you are in our smallest school at the university, which is our nursing school. So do you want to talk about class size, and then we'll go around and I'll get each of you to talk about what your classes are like within your specific schools.
Thanks, Heather. So for nursing, right now, my class size is a little under 200 students. That means freshman year, for the majority of our larger classes, like our intro to psychology and our chemistry and just intro to nursing, those are going to be our larger classes. So especially the intro to nursing and chemistry classes that are specific to the nursing school, they're going to be all the freshman nursing students. However, those classes, some of what Vashon was talking about, like intro to psychology and some of your gen ed, those are going to be mixed with the rest of the schools as well. So those might be a little bit larger. One of my favorite things though about the nursing school is that as you progress, your class size gets smaller because we basically split the class in half. One semester is one part of the curriculum, and then the second semester is the second half of the curriculum. And because we split the class sizes in half, one half of the class will do the one half of the semester. So for example, next year when I'm a junior, I'll have peds one semester, and then I'll have psych one semester, and we've flipped that. So instead of having 200 people in a lecture, it ends up being about 100. And I know those numbers can be a little bit daunting, especially coming from a high school that might not have as many people as some other high schools. And that was kind of the case for me. But like they've all been talking about, our advisors and our professors are here to help you no matter what. And no matter how big the class size is, they're always willing to reach out to you and provide additional hours and things like that. So that if you do feel like you might be a little bit overwhelmed with that number, there's definitely resources to help you out.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily. And Evan, so you're in our newest school here at the University of Pittsburgh. So can you talk a little bit about what that's like being in our newest school, and maybe the class size that you have within computer science?
Yeah, sure. So when you get in, usually a lot of those first year classes that everyone has to take will be like pretty big. So most of the classes I was in last semester were around like 80 students. But for any of those bigger sized classes that are like 80 students or above, the teacher will have recitations. So that'll be like a grad student or someone who has taken the course, depending on the course, and did really well in it. And they'll be teaching that recitation. So you're not going to be learning any new material during that recitation. You'll just be practicing the material, going over it, and you can ask any additional questions. And the great thing about that, it's usually like 15 to 20 students, so it's a little bit smaller, easier to ask questions. But then as you get further along in the major, the class sizes will get a little bit smaller, which is nice.
Perfect, thank you. And Taryn, can you talk a little bit about that freshman engineering experience and what the engineering school does to help you to pick a major between your different offerings that you have and being introduced to every discipline?
Yeah, so the freshman engineering program is really awesome. One of the reasons why I chose Pitt. So when you come in as a freshman engineer, you don't have to know exactly what you want your major to be. That's kind of what Pitt wants you to come in with, a very open mind. So how it works is all the freshman engineers, no matter if you know your major, you aren't sure what discipline you want to be in yet, you'll end up actually going to classes with all the freshman engineers. So it'll be your basic chemistry, physics, math courses, that sort of thing, along with more specific engineering courses. And then after that, in about March, so last month, I declared my major officially, and they do have a big seminar in the beginning of the year for first semester, and all the freshman students will go to it, and the different heads of the departments or the different disciplines will actually come and present their major and sort of like the jobs that you could go along with and the classes you'll be taking, and kind of just to spark your interest and maybe find that field that works really well for you. So this year my classes were a little bit bigger because I was with a lot of the first year engineers. So like my physics class was around like 150, and second semester was about 100, which isn't actually that big because we did have those recitations that Evan was talking about. But like my math class was actually like a lot smaller. I think I only had like 40 kids in it. So they're really looking towards making sure that you do get that individualized attention, because if you do have those bigger classes, like he was saying, you will be able to have that recitation. And there's always office hours for the professors too, which was really nice. But I'm really glad I was able to find my major. I kind of knew what I wanted when I came in, but it's nice to be able to see all the different ones. And I might be pursuing a minor in one of the other fields. So that was really cool.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Taryn. And Maddie, can you talk a little bit about what life is like also outside the classroom and how students can get involved in clubs and internships and really research and all those different things that really round out a student's time at the university?
Yeah, so especially as an incoming freshman, I was really busy and involved in high school. So I sort of wanted to find where that would translate to college and how that would be similar or different, or where I would kind of find my place. But actually at the beginning of every semester, they have an activities fair in the Peterson Event Center, which is where our basketball team plays. And it is a huge room filled with people tabling for their different organizations, clubs, things like that. There's tons and tons of things to choose from. There's literally something for everyone. But really they do a great job of kind of recruiting freshmen and then letting everyone kind of find their thing that they're interested in. And there's Greek life, obviously, there's academic based clubs, social based clubs, tons of different things like that. But for me personally, I am currently a member of Phi Sigma Pi, which is a national honors fraternity. It's co-ed. So that basically looks like there are social aspects, service aspects, and then academics. I also play some intramural volleyball with the Pathfinders and also with my frat, and I'm involved in the Sports Business Association, which is a group of business students where we kind of have discussions about potential careers in the sports field. We have speakers from around the city of Pittsburgh come in and kind of tell us about their experience working in the sports industry and kind of go from there. But there's really something for everyone. And even if there isn't, there's always opportunity to make clubs, make organizations, and there's always people looking to do that with you.
Thank you so much. And how about study abroad? Has anybody on this studied abroad yet? Just give me a little hand raise. Okay, so study abroad is something that is open to really any student, even our nursing students. And that's an opportunity that you can take advantage of and work with your advisors on and talk with them to make sure that you can find the best time to study abroad. Now, what I would suggest, if you have that question about study abroad, come back and ask it during one of our sessions. That is our last session of the day that's going to be talking about study abroad itself. So definitely go ahead and do that. And you can talk more about study abroad with students who will be studying abroad, who have already studied abroad here at the university. So let's really talk a little bit now about balance, because I know all of you have to balance your schedule. So let's hear from a couple of you. So Emily, can you talk about balance in the nursing school? And then we're going to go to Vishon, and then we will head to Taryn. So just talk a little bit about how you balance your schedules and maybe getting those gen eds and electives in.
Thanks again, Heather. So I think for most students, similar to what Maddie was saying, getting involved is a great way to not only determine what your schedule is going to look like, especially freshman year when you're coming in with not necessarily any experience in planning your own schedule and having all this individualized freedom. So for me, it was a big thing, just like Maddie said, to just try to find a couple things that really filled into my schedule to give me time so I knew when I was supposed to be studying and when I was supposed to go to my club meetings and fitting that all within my classes. Nursing specifically freshman year is really nice because it's a lot of the intro classes and also a lot of the gen eds that we have to fill. So intro to psychology and your anthropology class, your sociology credits, those kind of things can get filled in freshman year. And then you'll, in the mix of those, also have your nursing specific courses. So you get a little sprinkle of nursing, and then you also get some of the gen eds, which I think is really important to have that balance, because I love the nursing classes, but I also want to get to experience some of the history classes, and I want to get to experience the psychology classes just as much as the nursing specific heavy classes. In terms of just balancing all of that with Pathfinders, and I'm also a part of Pitt Dance Marathon and even 2 on-campus jobs, it has been really beneficial to me to have all of those experiences, because like I said, when I have those things to fill my schedule, it helps me kind of plan out when to do everything else. And it's definitely doable. And for me, it's just been something that's really helped just keep me organized and helped me get involved on campus, which is one of the most important things about coming to Pitt and really enjoying college.
So Vishon, and thank you so much, Emily. I'm sorry, I forgot to thank you there. But Vishon, when you talk a little bit about balance too, can you talk about how you choose which classes you're going to take each semester? Do you do all of your pre-med classes in one semester, or do you add in some of those electives? And how do you go about deciding what you're going to take when?
Yeah, of course, Heather. So what's great about the advising office is they do a great job of helping you tailor your schedule to what you want to fulfill and sort of what you're interested in, like I mentioned before. So about the pre-med classes that I take, we usually like to stick to 2 to 3 maybe classes a semester, because sciences, if you're doing a lot of science all the time, it can be a bit overwhelming, and you want to incorporate some of your other experience so you're not taking all gen eds one semester. And another thing about science courses is a lot of them are prerequisites for another course. So you can't take biology 2 without taking biology 1, obviously. So you're going to have some space in your schedule, no matter what your major is, to add in some electives that you want to take outside of your major. But what's nice is that you can both satisfy gen eds and take classes that you're interested in at the same time. So right now I'm taking a history of medicine class that my advisor recommended for me. It's actually satisfying my history general education requirement, and it's helping go towards my global health certificate. So there's many classes out there like that advisors and yourself can go look through our course catalog and see, if they are satisfying both something you want to pursue, like a minor or certificate outside of your major, and if they're satisfying a general education requirement. And planning is always key, but Pitt definitely does have a lot of opportunities for you to do that. So there's many course offerings. We offer thousands of courses every semester.
Thank you. And Taryn, talk a little bit about the engineering school and how you balance everything and how you decide what classes to take when.
So what was really, really nice, and I think this will apply to almost all students, over the summer when you're scheduling your freshman classes, I actually got a personalized phone call from my advisor, and we just kind of talked through the classes I was thinking about taking, my experiences in high school, which was really nice because obviously it is a big transition from high school to college, and it was nice to just be able to sit down and like talk through what I wanted like to pursue with my life and that kind of thing. But a lot of the freshman engineering classes are pretty straightforward. You don't really have a lot of like wiggle room in your schedule. If you do have AP credits, though, that does help a lot. Like I know that I had some, and it helped me to like get ahead in some classes or like get some credits for electives and that kind of thing. So it was really nice to get to hear that from my advisor when I first was talking to her. Um, I really was like kind of on the edge of whether I wanted to get a minor certificate or not. And I'm actually getting a certificate in communications. So that was really cool to be able to kind of talk about how I was passionate about that. And when I had my straightforward engineering classes first semester and second semester of freshman year, it was kind of frustrating because I was like, oh, I want this kind of variety. So being able to talk to your advisor about that, and I now like am able to do all these different like class options for next year, I was really excited by that. So after your freshman year, it does get a lot more flexible with wanting to take classes that are specific to your major or more specific to the minor or certificate you want to pursue. But freshman year, they are pretty straightforward. But yeah, it is a lot of fun. And there's lots of engineering organizations. So, like I was kind of talking about earlier with picking your discipline or the specific department you want to be in, there's lots of different organizations that can also help you with picking that. So that's nice, like out of the classroom stuff that kind of helps you along your freshman year as well. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Talked about having a variety of things, a major, certificate. How many of you actually have a major, a minor, a certificate, or multiple majors? Go ahead, just give me a hand raise and I'll tell everyone. So, okay, that is 4 out of the 6 students on here have things. And we had a student who was found, is it easy to do multiple different offerings, the major and the minor and the certificate? So Eva, I know you have a variety of things under your belt. And so can you talk about how you really came about having all of those and how you go about, managing?
I think for me, choosing to double major was definitely something my own advisor kind of pushed me to look into. I'm fortunate enough to be in the position where a lot of my classes overlap. So with political science and gender, sexuality, women's studies, it's a lot of literature which covers my Gen Ed classes as well as sometimes my upper levels. But for me, when it comes to defining that balance, it's huge communication with both my advisors. So I have one for political science, one for gender, sexuality, women's studies, and each semester we kind of sit down so I can find a good balance. So I try to at least take 2 political science and 2 GSWS classes if I can. Worst case, I'm doing maybe 15 credits each semester. So it's not too bad, and I'm still graduating on time. And that's something that I'm really fortunate to have.
Thank you so much. And something that I think we should clarify is, what is a certificate? What's the difference between a certificate, a minor, and a major? Whoever wants to take that, you are welcome to. Go ahead, Taryn.
Okay, so I was kind of looking into this when I had come in because I knew I wanted to do something with communications. And when I sat down with my advisor and I was asking her about it, she was like able to look into it and explain it to me. So there's like technically 3 different levels of like an education for a different different discipline or that sort of thing. So there's your major, obviously, which is what you're going to school for, that kind of thing. That's what's going to be like the big thing on your graduation diploma, and that's going to be your degree. So there's 2 other things that are right underneath it. There's the certificate, which is a little bit higher than a minor, and it requires a little bit more classes, and um, sometimes I'll have you take like more of a like breadth of classes just so you can like really show that you're very qualified in that. A minor is something that if it really sparks your interest, you can take a few classes a lot of times, which is really interesting. And I think that this could probably apply to a lot of other people. Classes for your major can actually, if you plan them correctly, fulfill stuff for minors that you only have to take an extra like class or 2 to be able to get that minor. So if you're really passionate about chemistry and you're pre-med and you end up getting a lot of chemistry courses and you're really enjoying them, you might only have to take 1 or 2 extra chem courses to get that chemistry minor. And I know that one of my friends is actually a chemical engineer. That's what he's doing because he really loves chemistry. So it's kind of cool to be able to just be able to take an extra class or two. But with a certificate, you have to focus a little more, maybe take a few more classes, but the major is that super big thing that'll show up on your diploma. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Evan, so you're currently a freshman on campus. You have, done that transition recently from high school to college. So can you talk about how hard was that to adjust from coming from a high school setting and high school classes into a college setting and college classes?
Yeah. So I didn't find the transition too bad. It's definitely a lot about time management. So in college, you'll have a lot less classes, a lot more time, and you're going to have to balance that time. So even though you do have less classes, you'll have a lot more homework probably than high school. So you just kind of have to manage that balance. But obviously, you don't want to work all the time. You want to also do some clubs, go to some sporting events. That's what I like to do. So just find a way to enjoy your free time and not be studying all the time. But you also want to balance it so that you don't, miss work. So you have to just learn how to balance it. And I would say the most important thing is learning time management skills.
Excellent. And does anybody else have anything they want to add on about that transition? Maybe something that you learned that you would love to tell our students who are going to be making that transition very soon, a good tidbit or a good piece of advice?
I think one of the things that really helped me with the transition was trying to step out of my comfort zone a little bit more than I had in high school. I think by the end of high school, I'd really found a groove and I had a group of friends and a group of clubs and curriculars that really made me feel comfortable at high school. And then coming to Pitt, this was my first time in a city. This is my first time with so many opportunities just right there for me to take advantage of. So one of the things I always recommend to new students and even to juniors and seniors that are experiencing Pitt for maybe the last year is to just try something new every single year, because you never know what you can find on campus. For me this year, I know I'm not transitioning from high school this year, but I, like Maddie, did volleyball with the Pathfinders, and I can't play volleyball. It's just not my sport, but it's just fun to get to hang out with your friends and do something different on a Thursday night. So things like that, where you might not have ever done it before in high school, that doesn't mean you can't try it for the first time in college and kind of fall in love with it.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else have any pieces of advice that they want to share? Go ahead, Taryn.
So something that I really found to be helpful was that I kind of went in with the idea, like, don't be afraid to get involved. So like that big activities fair that Maddie was talking about, it was really nice to just get to walk in, and let me tell you, I signed up for way too many activities. Like I came home with like 20, 25 brochures for different activities. And what I kind of like to go along with is that it's totally okay to not actually do all of them. Just be able to be open and be interested to stuff. So I think that's kind of cool. And I kind of found that to be like my motto for this year is just don't be afraid to be involved, because you don't want to regret any part of college. You really want to make sure that you're getting out there, and like you can find some of your best friends doing stuff that you didn't even realize that you were passionate about doing. So that's really cool.
Perfect. Thank you. And so then during that freshman year, do you end up taking a lot of gen eds, or can you sprinkle in some classes that really are just something different or maybe a core requirement?
So I'll take this one. So what's nice is that if you have an underlying interest, a lot of the classes that you can take, especially as a freshman, because you still have all your gen eds to fulfill. So like it's like throwing a dart at the map. One of them is going to hit some gen ed. So let's say you're interested in business and maybe you're considering going into the business school. Well, you have to take econ, and that actually satisfies the social science requirement. So if you take macro or microeconomics, that'll satisfy the social science requirement, even if you don't end up going into the business school. So you kind of explore that option. Also, all freshmen in the Dietrich School are required to take English. So no matter what school you go into, that'll satisfy your English requirements. So you kind of get to see how by taking these classes that are gen eds, you're actually helping yourself down the road, because you'll be checking off these gen ed courses off that checklist that you need to graduate, but also you're exploring your interests at the same time. So you can choose them and don't feel held back by how you're exploring your interests, because chances are whatever like interest that you have, underlying interest, it's going to satisfy some gen ed. So let's say in my case, let's say you're remotely interested in the sciences, and you take a biological science or a chemistry, but then you realize, oh, this is not for me, and do about face. What's nice is that everyone in the Dietrich School has to take 3 natural science courses. So you might have already taken 1 or 2 just because you had at first the underlying interest. So really don't feel held back by your gen eds that you need to satisfy. If you have some interest, definitely pursue them from the get-go and choose your classes that way.
And Bashan, you just spoke about something else that I know a lot of students have questions about, which is how easy is it to really relocate to another school once you're at the university? So, and you spoke a little bit about it, Bashan, but don't worry, I'll go ahead and take this one for you so that it's a bit more technical, but it really depends upon which school you're switching into. And I know the question specifically was from the Dietrich School to the engineering school. You will just want to work very closely with your advisors and make sure that you're taking the correct curriculum. It doesn't always guarantee you a spot in that school, but it does make sure that you have all the classes that you need to be reviewed for that and to make sure that you are on your way to get into that school. There are some schools on campus that it is extremely difficult to relocate into, like the nursing school that Emily is a part of, but that is something that still can be done. It just might take you some additional time on campus. So another good question that we would like to talk about a little bit today. And Maddie, I'm going to have you answer this one. Can you talk a little bit about new student orientation and what that was like and how you went about doing that?
Yeah. So I, along with all the other freshmen, I think we got to campus about a week before classes start, which was a little bit daunting. Obviously, I'm from like 4.5 hours away. Really had never been to the city of Pittsburgh other than for tours, things like that. So I found my roommate for my freshman year. We had never met each other. We met on Facebook. But so it was sort of like once we moved in, said bye to our parents, it was sort of just like, okay, now what? Like we're here, we've got a week, there's no class, what are we gonna do? But the university does a really great job of making tons of activities for students to kind of meet each other, get involved like with that activities fair, so you can kind of get a taste of what you're going to be doing. And then there's tons of different activities. They had like a glow-in-the-dark yoga, they had go and make your own like smoothie bowl, they have an ice cream social. There's tons of different things during, it's called O Week, if you will, where students are all just kind of trying to meet each other, get adjusted to, okay, now I'm here living on my own. And then they also do something called the new Student Convocation, where your entire grade of like, I think the freshman class is about 4,500 students, give or take a little. We all go into the Peterson Event Center and sort of have this big like unifying thing of like, we're all here together. We're the freshman class of 2023. And that was really cool to kind of get a feel for how many people are there and what it's going to be like for 3 or 4 years. But a week was definitely super fun. And I know they are always coming up with new activities and things like that.
Perfect. Thank you. And Maddie, what was your favorite thing that you did that week?
Oh, my favorite thing. I'm trying to think. They actually had something, they did like a casino night, which sounds really strange, but like I was saying before, I'm a huge fan of Jeopardy. And one of the things was like a quiz Jeopardy type game where they would actually give out like Monopoly money, and then you could actually go and get like Pitt merch for it, which was super cool. But I spent most of my night over at that little quiz station, but that was pretty fun. The ice cream social was also cool because that was like obviously getting the free ice cream, but then getting to meet a bunch of people, and they were doing different activities to kind of get to know people, stuff like that. Those two are probably my favorite.
Perfect. Thank you. And for our upperclassmen, let's focus on one of the questions that was just asked about how do you feel that your classes have prepared you for life after graduation? So, Eva, Vishon, can you talk a little bit about how you think your classes are really preparing you for the next steps?
Definitely kind of scary thinking that next year is gonna be my senior year. But as I'm looking at master's programs and kind of figuring out what steps I want to take, I know what field I'd like to go into. And being able to say that I go to Pitt and I'm currently studying has left a lot of people I've talked to, either if it's admissions counselors or people that I'm looking for fellowships, have been really impressed with the rigor that I'm going through on a daily basis. So I definitely feel, even though the classes are really challenging, there is such a profit at the end that I'm really looking forward to taking advantage of.
And Vashon, especially going into something like med school. I know a lot of students are thinking about taking that next step into med school or dental school or vet school. Can you talk about how your classes have prepared you for both taking the MCATs and really going on and doing those interviews for med school?
Yeah, of course, Heather. So as Heather said, I'm preparing to go to medical school, hopefully. I'm actually applying right now. So it's a bit of a process that I'm sure you guys have just gone through as well for undergrad. But Pitt has really prepared me well. So as Heather said, I recently took the MCAT, which is, for those of you that don't know, it's the medical college admissions test, which is sort of like the SAT for medical school. And Pitt's science classes are really strong in that they prepare me well. And not only the sciences, but especially the writing and the reading courses, they really prepare you for the English section that's on the MCAT as well. And then for med school, so the feedback I've been getting is that medical school is really like the Pitt degree. So from students that have gone on, seniors and people who have graduated that are in medical school right now, they feel really prepared for those first 2 years of medical school where you're learning the hard sciences over again, because the Pitt professors do such a good job of integrating medicine into their classes, because I know a lot of Pitt students are pre-med and they want to go that route.
Great. Thanks, Vashon. Evan, how many hours do you actually spend outside of the classroom doing work and studying?
Yeah, so I would say it really depends how you make your schedule. So I kind of like to spread everything out. So I usually did about 3 classes a day, and then I would have one day where I only had one class. But I also had a friend this past semester who basically only had his classes on 2 days, but he had like 5 or 6 classes each of those days. So it really depends, but I would recommend trying to spread it out so you're not like studying all one day and then you have to do your work like the next day. Definitely try to spread it out. Usually you'll be like, what I like to do is like 3 classes a day. And then I'll usually do like 2 to 3 hours of work. And then if there's a day where I don't have any classes, I'll usually mostly be doing homework that day. So usually like 4 or 5 hours on that day. But it's really not too bad. You have a lot more time than you did in high school. And you're definitely able to balance having fun and also studying.
Perfect. Thanks. And Taryn, where's your favorite place on campus to study?
Okay, so in general, I'm a pretty social person, so I do like our group study spaces that we have in our Hillman library. So on the second floor, that they actually have these rooms that you can rent out, and no fee, completely with your Pitt ID. You can just go on there a few days before you want to study there, and just book that room, which I really liked a lot. My friends and I would always go there. They have like these nice dry erase like walls, so we would always like write out our math problems, study for our chem tests, that kind of thing. So it was really nice to be able to like go in there and like draw out the problems. That's probably like, my favorite place to study. Also can always go to study at the Einstein Bros Bagels in the bottom of Benedum, aka our engineering building. That's always a fun time to study there. So
Perfect. And Emily, being a nursing student, you work a lot with UPMC, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. So can you talk about some of the benefits, whether students are nursing students or maybe they're pre-med, or it is just that they want to get involved in some of the hospitals on campus? Can you talk about how it is to get involved and some of the benefits of being at a school that has so many hospitals on campus?
Thanks, Heather. Having UPMC not only affiliated with the university, but on campus in many different locations was one of the main reasons I came to the University of Pittsburgh. The nursing program is impeccable, and a lot of that has to do with our partnership with UPMC. So we start clinicals sophomore year. So I've completed 2 semesters of clinicals already, and being able to have that experience so early on in my college career is so helpful because I get to see the environment that I'll be working in eventually and get to kind of see if it's something that I actually want to do. In terms of getting involved with UPMC, for the nursing students specifically, you will have clinicals there. So it's a really great way to kind of get your foot in the door of this large corporation, or just in general, being in a hospital setting and seeing what that's like. For maybe our students that aren't nursing and don't necessarily start clinicals sophomore year, there is a lot of opportunities to volunteer, not necessarily all medically volunteering, but I know some students will volunteer at UPMC to play instruments in the lobby or to be greeters. So there's lots of ways for students to get volunteer hours or simply just, again, get your foot in the door in a hospital and kind of see what that environment is like. My freshman roommate was a volunteer at UPMC Shadyside, which is just a quick bus ride away from campus. And she absolutely loved it because she got to greet at the door. And because she was so dedicated to being a volunteer there, they actually promoted her to being the triangle player of their band on Saturday morning. So she was really excited about that. But there's lots of ways to get involved, and not just for our pre-health students. It's a large corporation on campus, and there are a lot of ways for students like our business majors to get internships and different partnerships with them, because they're not just the health focused corporation that they are just an entirely huge corporation in Pittsburgh and all around Pittsburgh, which is a great opportunity for our students when they're in college and then also beyond college.
Thank you so much, Emily. So I do have one more question for you all, but after I have asked that, I'm going to come to each one of you and ask you for one piece of advice that you would give the incoming freshman class for this coming fall. So I'm going to give you all a minute to think about that. But Maddie, I'm coming to you for this one. So students and taking notes, what have you found to be the best way to take notes? Do you do it on paper? Do you do it on an iPad, a computer? What's the easiest way in class to be able to take notes, and what are your tips on it?
I think that's definitely comes down to personal preference. For me personally, I am a really, really slow writer. So sometimes in class, when a professor is going through a PowerPoint or lecturing, I just can't write fast enough. That's just me. So what I usually do is I type my notes during class, or sometimes for like my econ courses where we're drawing graphs and things like that, I'll have a pad of paper next to me so I can type the notes and then draw graphs or diagrams, whatever that may be. And then what I try to do, I don't always do it as successfully as I hope, but for the most part, I will go after class or at some point during the week, and I will go into my computer and then handwrite my notes that I took. So that's sort of a way to review the material that I learned in class, and then do the actual writing it on paper, which helps you to remember it better. But again, it's really kind of on a case-by-case basis. If you're in like a science course where you are drawing a lot of things or doing different, I don't know, I'm not a science person, labs, whatever, maybe you're going to be wanting to take them on paper, but it does come down to personal preference, the class you're taking, things like that. But yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And we're gonna go backwards on this one. So Bashan, you're gonna be up first. What's your one piece of advice or tip you have for the incoming freshman class?
For sure. I was pretty nervous about academics coming in my freshman year. And so one thing I would like to say is always, make those big classes smaller. If you do have any big classes, you can always make a big class small, but you can't make a small class big. So definitely take advantage of classes that you might otherwise forward, and always try your best.
Thank you so much, Vashan. Taryn, how about you?
I would say the biggest thing I lived by was just stay open to new experiences and never turn down something that could end up turning into something really fun. So yeah, just enjoy new experiences. That's what college is all about.
Maddie, we're coming back to you now.
My biggest piece of advice is probably to really get to know your advisor. I am someone who I'm always trying to like figure out what I'm going to be doing. Am I switching my major? Am I doing a certificate? Whatever. And getting to know my advisor and not being afraid to like send her an email. I probably bother her, but I literally send her emails all the time. I've met with her multiple times in person. I actually had a Zoom call with her for like an hour and a half a couple days ago. But definitely get that interpersonal relationship with your advisor and kind of use their knowledge to your advantage.
Excellent. And Evan, how about you?
Yeah, I would say definitely, as Vishon said, make sure you make those bigger classes a little bit smaller. So sitting in the front of the class, and then making time to meet your professors. So go to their office hours, talk with them, so they really know who you are. It definitely helps a lot when you know the professor. And if you have a question, they know who you are, so it's a little bit easier to help you. So definitely meet your professors and go to their office hours.
Excellent. And Eva?
I think definitely my biggest advice is communicate with everybody around you. There is such a huge community here at Pitt that goes beyond the undergraduate population. So you never know what connections you make just by going to office hours or even talking to somebody in your class.
Perfect. And Emily, we're rounding it out with you. What piece of advice do you have?
These have all been such good pieces of advice. I think one that I have is, especially during those first few weeks of freshman year, just hop on a Port Authority bus, which is the public transportation that we have in the city, and explore a new neighborhood that we have in Pittsburgh. That was such a drawing factor to the University of Pittsburgh, was that it was in a city with so many different neighborhoods surrounding it. So whether it's a restaurant in Lawrenceville, or if it's the Target that's in East Liberty, just going to buy a vacuum or a lampshade, there's so many different ways to explore Pittsburgh. So hop on that Port Authority bus and see where it takes you.
Excellent. And as a two-time Pitt alum myself, I can tell you my biggest piece of advice is to also don't forget to have fun. Don't stress out too much where you're worrying about everything. Just relax, have fun, and enjoy yourselves. But we appreciate all of you tuning in today and joining us for this session. Thank you to all of our students for joining us today. We appreciate all of your insight and tips and tricks. Just some housekeeping things. If you have any additional questions, do not hesitate to text message those back to us on the text message number that you received this information from. And then just make sure that you are joining us for our next session as well. Our next session will be happening right on the top of the hour, so you can join us live for that too. And enjoy yourselves, have fun, and hail to Pitt, everyone.